Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something incredibly practical, maybe one of the hardest things we deal with every single day. What comes out of our mouths? We're going deep into Samma Vaca, right speech. It's the third element of the Eightfold Noble Path, and honestly, it trips people up constantly.
It really does. And, the sources we've looked at are pretty uncompromising here. We often treat speech so casually, don't we? But they frame it as the critical bridge, the one connection between our inner thoughts, all that messy stuff inside, and the outside world. And if that thought, that intention underneath, is impure, well, then speech immediately becomes a weapon, a tool for destruction.
Absolutely. So our goal today isn't just, be polite, we're going further. We need to really understand the four specific kinds of speech to abstain from. But even more than that, we have to get into the mental states needed to make our speech genuinely good, truly beneficial. This is about changing the source, not just the output.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics, the boundaries. What is right speech defined against?
Okay, so let's unpack these four things we need to stop doing. The four vices of speech. Vaci Dusheret 4. The first one is probably the most obvious. False speech. Musa Vada.
Right. And it's not just telling, big outright lies that you can easily disprove. The sources really widen the definition. It covers all those small dishonesties we might engage in daily. Things like twisting the truth, maybe exaggerating a story to make yourself look better, or, and this is a common one, saying something untrue just to get out of a little bit of trouble or embarrassment.
Yeah, that makes sense. What strikes me there is how it's not just active lying. The sources seem to suggest that even, deliberately not saying something crucial, omitting a key fact to mislead someone, that counts too.
It absolutely does, because the intention is the same, isn't it? You're manipulating how someone sees reality, usually for your own benefit. Any word, or even a deliberate lack of words, that makes the listener believe something false, that violates this first principle. Integrity is key.
The second one feels, more insidious, like you said, slanderous speech.
Pisuna Vaca. This is when you speak specifically to cause trouble between people, to create bad feelings, disunity, hostility. It's that kind of gossip designed purely to drive a wedge.
Right. And here's where it gets tricky, because I've heard people say, oh, but I was just telling the truth. They did make that mistake.
And that's where the teaching is so sharp.
Yeah.
It applies this crucial test. What was your intent? Even if what you're saying about someone else is factually 100% correct, maybe they did mess up badly. But if your reason for sharing that info is to stir up conflict, to make people dislike each other, to cause pain and separation, then it violates right speech. Completely. The truth of the statement doesn't excuse malicious intent. It's not about accuracy alone. It's about the outcome you're aiming for.
That immediately brings to mind, online comment sections, or even just office gossip, subtly planting seeds of doubt about a coworker. That intention to break down the group, that's Pisuna Vaca, even if it's typed anonymously.
Precisely. It's a deliberate erosion of trust.
Okay, moving to the third one, idle chatter. Samphappalapa. This one seems, almost harmless compared to the others. But it really speaks to our modern lives, doesn't it? All the noise.
It does. Idle chatter means speaking without a real point, uselessly, or maybe just at the wrong time. It's not necessarily mean, but it's unproductive.
Let me push back on that a bit. Say, in a work context, I might spend hours discussing potential ideas, brainstorming, If it doesn't lead to something concrete right away, is that idle? Where's the line between useful exploration and just wasting breath?
That's a really good point. The distinction isn't purely about the topic, it's about the purpose. Is there a beneficial aim? If your discussion, even if it's abstract, is geared towards a positive outcome, maybe problem solving or planning, it has purpose. We'll touch on benefit, Artha, later. Idle chatter is the noise without that constructive goal. It just eats up mental energy, yours and the listeners. Think about endlessly scrolling through pointless online arguments or telling the same trivial story over and over. It kind of dulls the mind, pulls focus from what matters.
Got it. So it's about the lack of constructive purpose, the constant stream of unproductive noise rather than focused talk. Okay, now the fourth one. This seems to be where a lot of modern confusion comes in. Harsh speech.
Yes, Pharusa Vaca. And this is where contemporary ideas often clash head-on with this ancient wisdom. It's arguably the most critical one for us to get right today.
Because you hear it all the time, right? People equating harsh words, swearing, aggressive talk with being authentic or sincere. They say things like, I'm just being real, or I don't sugarcoat, that's just how I am.
That's the core myth we need to dismantle. The sources give a really powerful counter-argument. Harsh speech isn't defined just by using certain taboo words, though those often play a part. It's defined entirely by the underlying intention. If the speech comes from a place of anger, hatred, contempt, or the desire to insult, that's harsh speech, Pharusa Vaca.
So you can't hide behind good intentions if the delivery is aggressive. That idea of toxic sincerity.
Exactly that. Think about sending an angry email, maybe criticizing a colleague. You might list facts that are technically true about their performance. But if you use demeaning language, calling them useless, idiot, maybe using violent metaphors, your aim there is actually to inflict emotional pain, to sting them, to make them feel small.
Even if I tell myself, oh, I just wanted to shock them into improving, the teaching says that's just a cover story.
That's right, because that intent lacks genuine compassion, Karuna, and it definitely lacks loving kindness, Metta. The core message here is really profound. True sincerity, if it's pure, never needs harshness or putting someone down. If your feedback needs anger to fuel it, it's probably not honest feedback anymore. It's just anger wearing a disguise of honesty.
Wow. Okay, that completely shifts things. It's not just about policing your words. It's about cultivating your heart, really. These 4 abstentions are like the rules of the road, but they won't stick unless we fix the intention.
Yes, we're moving from just changing behavior to actually cultivating the mind, trying to force right speech without dealing with the anger or jealousy inside. That's like putting a nice lampshade on a faulty wire. It won't last. The sources draw a direct line, a necessary connection between pure speech and what they call the 4 divine states, the Brahma Vihara 4. These qualities are the foundation. Pure speech becomes the natural result, the fruit of having these states active in your mind.
Okay, let's trace that. How does cultivating these divine states naturally cut off the need for those 4 vices we just talked about?
Well, first, you have loving kindness, Metta. This is that genuine, open-hearted wish for others to be well and happy. Unconditionally. When your mind is genuinely filled with metta, it makes harsh speech almost impossible. You simply can't wish someone well and, in the same breath, speak cruelly out of anger or contempt. Sincerity infused with metta just doesn't need harshness. Its goal is always to uplift, even when correcting.
And the next one, compassion, karuna, the desire to see suffering end.
Right. Karuna directly tackles slanderous speech. If your main focus is on relieving pain and suffering, how could you possibly enjoy creating the division and hostility that slander thrives on? It neutralizes that malicious intent needed for harmful gossip.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't want to cause that kind of pain.
Okay. The third state feels really important for, well, just being human. Sympathetic joy, mudita, battling envy.
Exactly. Mudita means genuinely feeling happy about other people's success and good fortune. It's the direct antidote to jealousy. Because jealousy often fuels that kind of belittling talk, doesn't it? Or faint praise that subtly undermines someone. When someone succeeds and your first instinct is to find fault or minimize it, that's usually envy talking. But if you cultivate mudita, your genuine reaction is joy, so the words that come out are praise and celebration. It eliminates the need for that critical, diminishing speech.
I think that's huge for anyone dealing with, say, competitiveness or professional jealousy. It's not about forcing yourself to say nice things. It's about actually working on feeling genuine joy for them.
Precisely. And then, anchoring all of this is the 4th state. Equanimity, upekkha.
How does being balanced and steady stop us from, say, lying?
Upekkha means maintaining a stable, unbiased perspective, seeing things clearly, including the temporary nature of praise and blame, success and failure. When you have that inner balance, it prevents false speech. Why? Because you lose that desperate need to lie or distort things to protect your ego, your biases, your self-image. You're not frantically defending a position, so you don't need to bend the truth. Equanimity removes the need for defensive dishonesty because you're already grounded.
Okay, so if these 4 divine states are the fertile ground of preventing the weeds of the 4 vices, then the teaching gives us a kind of gold standard to aim for, the ideal form of speech. The well-spoken word, Suffasita Vaca.
Yes, this is the ultimate goal in communication. And to qualify as Suffasita Vaca, speech has to meet 5 criteria, all at the same time. It's quite a high bar. Think of it as a complete checklist for making sure your interaction is truly beneficial.
All right, lay it on us. What are the 5 criteria for the well-spoken word?
Okay. First, it must be true. Saka. No surprise there. Second, it must be beneficial or useful. Right, it has to serve a good purpose. Third, it must be pleasant or agreeable to hear. Sunha. Gentle, not harsh. Fourth, and this connects back directly to the divine states, it must be spoken with a mind full of loving kindness. Metta. The intention has to be pure goodwill. And fifth, it needs to be spoken at the right time. Kala and Kwan. Timing matters.
Oh, wow. Including number 3, pleasantness, and number 4, metta, is really the game changer here, isn't it? It clearly states that truth and benefit aren't enough on their own. It has to be gentle and come from a place of goodwill. So even if you have a difficult truth that needs to be said, delivering it harshly actually disqualifies it from being well spoken.
It does. It puts enormous emphasis on the speaker's state of mind and delivery. The attitude matters just as much as the content. If you have tough feedback to give, but it's necessary and beneficial, you must find a way to deliver it gently, kindly, and at the right moment. Otherwise, the listener just reacts to the sting, the harshness, and the actual message, the potential benefit, gets lost. It clearly separates positive, constructive communication from just being blunt or angry.
So wrapping this up for everyone listening, this deep dive really shows that right speech isn't about self-censorship in a negative way. It's about active cultivation. It's about creating peace both inside yourself and in the world around you by being really mindful, checking that intention before you speak.
And if there's one final thought to take away, maybe it's about the power of not speaking.
Ah, yes, the highest form of Samma Vaca, according to some texts.
Silence. Exactly. When emotions are running really high, or maybe when you realize you just can't meet all 5 criteria for Pisuna Vaca, maybe you feel angry, or you know the timing is terrible, in those moments, choosing silence, choosing not to speak, is actually considered the highest, most skillful form of right speech.
That deliberate choice to abstain.
Choosing silence when your words might be untrue, unhelpful, unkind, ill-timed, or coming from a bad place, that protects everyone. It preserves your own peace, your own karma, if you like, and it prevents harm to others. It's the ultimate mastery of the tongue, really, because it's rooted in deep awareness and compassion.
That is a really powerful idea to carry with you into your next conversation, your next email, maybe even your next social media post. Before you hit send, before you open your mouth, just pause. Ask, is it true? Is it beneficial? Is it pleasant? Is it kind? Is it timely? And if you can't tick all those boxes, maybe the most sincere, most skillful thing you can do is stay silent.
Sometimes learning how to speak well involves recognizing profoundly when not to speak at all.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really encourage you to take this week and just notice the intentions bubbling up before you speak. Your words have power. Make sure they're building value, not causing harm. We'll catch you next time.